Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Miami Dolphins get into some action in this free agency day 2, as they now have their number 3 receiver, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, has signed a 2-year deal with the Miami Dolphins, $6.5 million, 3.2 of that guaranteed. He had 9 touchdowns last year for the Tennessee Titans. Adds the little bit of size for the Miami Dolphins, and just a ton of big plays, not necessarily their number one. He was not their go-to guy, but like you go and look him up on social media and it's like, man, this guy has a ton of big plays, and over his career, 14.5 yards per reception, 19 receptions, and had more touchdowns last year than Waddle and Tyreek Hill combined. So pretty excited about it. I was like, hey, you know what? This is like the first one where I'm like, all right, no. What's the catch? What's he got? He got like a torn labrum or something he's coming back from? What do we got going on here? Apparently he had other offers, but is excited about the opportunity of being in the Dolphins system. And the Dolphins, according to Barry Jackson, signed him with the intent of making him the number 3 receiver. So I would guess if you are an Eric Ezukama, that's probably a little bit of a Grant DeBoe's not going to put so much on his plate, and of course is coming back from a pretty vicious head injury. And then you imagine Malik Washington's going to be mixed in there into the slot doing kind of a jack of all trades thing. But I don't know, like looking at what he put on the highlight reel last year, but I'm kind of fired up about this. And this is always kind of my move. Whenever I'm like, I didn't watch a ton of Titans football. What did this, what is their fan base thing? Because like my inkling would be if I went to, if somebody was like, was Liam Eichenberg any good? And you went to the Dolphins Reddit, you'd be like, oh my God, they're celebrating that he's gone. And that would make me very, very nervous that he sucks. For example, I just had this with the safety that was just signed. I didn't go to Jets Reddit, but I had, a family member who's a Jets fan who's like, this safety that you guys just got. You guys just, the Dolphins signed Ashton Davis. He goes, dude, good luck. And he's like, I can't believe anybody signed him. Now, is this an irrational Tobin? Yeah, of course. I mean, it doesn't fall far from the family tree no matter what teams you root for. However, I trust his instinct on things like this because he's also a rabid Kentucky Wildcats fan, and he really gave me the download on Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, who were middle of the first round draft picks on when they came in, and he was spot on with them as far as his basketball was concerned. So I trust it. But either way, for Westbrook-Ikhine, like the Titans fans seem to be pretty pissed off that he's gone. Like the idea that they're blowing it up, they're getting rid of everybody, they're getting rid of everybody in-house, their new GM is going to do their own thing and be in this mold of revamping, restarting for whatever the hell they're going to do, because we don't even really know. I would say if you had a reliable wide receiver who wasn't going to cost you a ton, because I imagine the thing that's got to give him a little bit of pause is like, wait, he didn't sign for very much money. It's not like this guy went out there and made $10, $15 million a year. He's making, 3 guaranteed. That ain't nothing. And I'm sure like he's basically probably doing this on a 1-year showcase, and then boom, let's try and see what it could beef up. I'm going to be in Mike McDaniel's offense. I'm going to be with Tua. We just saw what Jonnu Smith did. Let's go out there and see if I could do some of that as well with a quarterback who doesn't have a propensity to throw it to the other team or isn't Mason Rudolph. And you might be in a better spot. But I do think from the Dolphins standpoint, like, gives them a little bit something different, especially size-wise. Like, you're talking about a guy, the ability in those red zones to really convert and have more options to go to, super important. And you saw it last year with Jonnu Smith and breaking the tight end records and what he was able to do. Great. But you did need to add more to that. And that third dynamic between the whole Odell Beckham thing not working out, DeBoe's, whomever, Ezukama not working out, who could you really rely upon? I mean, like, are you in hopes that, like, Taj Washington is going to come back? Like, look, Lincoln Riley talked him up to me at Big Ten Media Day, but he's also pretty slender, and he's coming off of an injury that I don't even think was ever disclosed about what he had. So now you have a guy, proof is a little bit in there. He's got the resume to build off of, and it does seem like, he is going to be missed from the other standpoint. So perhaps this is what Tyreek Hill was referring to when he said Grier is playing chess. I don't know. But it does feel like the Dolphins' arsenal gets a little bit bigger, has more big play options from a guy who has big plays under his belt, and seemingly is going to be missed. So I think that's all interesting. And I think the other thing that's been pretty noticeable about what the Dolphins are doing, they haven't really broken the bank on anybody. They are having to go bargain shopping. If you're seeing all the big money spilling around the table, you don't really have it with, the Tua situation and his contract. They could restructure. To our knowledge, they haven't yet. And you almost wonder from Stephen Ross's standpoint, is there a little bit of a tightening of the belt? Like, if you're Stephen Ross at this point and you want Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier to go prove it, you've already given big money resources to them nonstop. Like, don't you want to be at a certain point putting them into a corner of like, hey, you guys have had years of crazy spending, and it's not like Stephen Ross is a cheapskate, right? So is he just like, I'm gonna just write you guys another check to do what exactly? So maybe that has put the Dolphins in a place where they got to be a little bit more resourceful. Not that they haven't done things out of character. Like, you look at the Daniel signing yesterday, and look, he's coming off an Achilles. Chris Grier doesn't mind guys that are injured. We've all heard this, but they did seemingly get a pretty good value deal for the talent. It's just a matter of, is that dude going to be ready on the field? And it seems with the Ikhine signing like the same thing. It's like, all right, you know what? This guy is going to be very capable. He can provide a lot for this Dolphins team. We saw this with Jonnu last year. Put him in the right situation. Those numbers can even beef up a little bit more. I think it's a pretty solid thing to check out. And then you're seeing, like, as far as the big money guys are concerned, Javon Holland got signed today, ends up going to the New York Giants. Not really a surprise that he's gone. I saw some people kind of dunking on him because he said a bunch of stuff on his podcast that turned out to be like opposite. And I'm just like, it's free agency, dude. You're going to go where the most money is. There was this wild report that was going on for like 3 hours that Javon Holland had turned down almost, I think it was like $6 million more per to go to the Vikings. And he came out and he just squashed it completely. And I was like, that's kind of an odd, but it was an odd thing because I think it was like from a Vikings account. If it would have been a Dolphins account, it would have been like, that sounds like complete bull bleed, because it would almost feel like, oh, he turned down more money to not be with Brian Flores and to also be on a much worse team than to go to the Minnesota Vikings for a better team that was incredible last year, incredible defense, more money, spending money, and the only thing that the hang up is I don't like the coach. I'm like, that sounded like bullshit from the start. I couldn't buy that. I was like, nah, no sale on that one, dude. I can't get with that. That to me just seems like, it seems too fake. Seemed too fake, and Javon Holland set that straight. So it is, you talk about the needs of the Dolphins came into this thing. They get a lineman spot filled. They add a little bit of lineman depth. They got their backup QB, and they got themselves another target on the wide receiver front. All things that are covered. The big thing that's probably noticeable, and they got a safety, which they got 2 safeties. So they got their safeties seemingly figured out. They got the draft coming up. The big thing that's noticeable is defensive line. Like, that's the one where you're just like, all right, what's going to go on there? Are they going to bring Calais Campbell back? Is that the move here? Is that the beat? Because it feels very much like the Dolphins are, and they got a corner that they got to figure out too. Jeez. So it really does feel like that first round pick is, put it up in the air, dude. Like, it could go in a lot of directions. a lot of directions. The only ones you'd be really stunned by would be probably pass rush, and the Joey Bosa thing remains out there, I guess. And there was a little bit of an update that Joey Bosa actually doesn't have an offer from the 49ers, that was crap. So then you wonder, like, all right, does he really want to go to the Dolphins? Is it too incentive based? What is the deal there? We could get an answer as soon as I post this thing, but that's the other thing where where we're at with all of this. But as of right now, we are sitting here. Dolphins get themselves a new wide receiver in NWI, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. They get themselves a new safety in Ashton Davis. And, pair Davis with Ifeatu Melifonwu. Boom. You got a little something there. Melifonwu also one of those guys dealing with the injuries. Last year did not play a ton of games, but talented. Everybody seems to rave about his talent, what he brings, and can do a little bit of everything from that safety position, bring some aggressive, make some big plays, has made an impact in playoff games. So, I think the Dolphins are done okay. I wouldn't say like they've knocked it out of the park. I'm very, I'm not in the more the time passes, I'm really not in love with the Zach Wilson signing, to be honest with you. And it's just one of these things where I'm like, I don't really understand why somebody of that garners potentially $10 million. Like, they've done nothing. They took no snaps last year. It must really be good to be a QB because you could just get $10 million. But whatever, he's here. And then, of course, the Achilles injury with Daniels worries me. But the ones today, I'm like, pretty good. Pretty solid job by Chris Grier, all things considered, and where they're at. And the Dolphins having to be a little bit more resourceful and instead of the spending willy-nilly. I think they've done a pretty good job. The Ikhine signing is one I'm pretty intrigued by that one to see where this is at as far as all the splashes they've made so far. But we'll see what lies ahead, because it does feel like the Dolphins are running on the idea that they can't exactly spend willy-nilly. They're not going to restructure everything under the moon, especially the Tua deal. Like, that's the important shoe to drop. Like, are they ever going to pull that lever? And not yet. We're not there yet. But this is where we're at so far, rolling into a Tuesday night.